see Stanford taking advantage. White with the D, moving it downfield. This pops up. Great grab to keep possession. Maya White, the sister of Monisha White, able to reel it in and then throw to the break side. Stanford converting.
Stanford up 2-1. A little bit of information about Stanford out of Palo Alto, California. 7-time national champions. That's one of the things about this team. They're the winningest program in women's ultimate.
One point having a 102-game winning streak that ended in 2000. UNC Wilmington, the women's team, actually ending that streak.
102 games. That's not a record that's going to get broken anytime soon. The women's division right now is very stacked West Coast, where these teams are just taking turns in the finals. University of British Columbia, UW, UCSB, Stanford was there. Just really powerful all around. Oregon.
You really haven't seen an East Coast team represent well in many years. Tufts Ewell making it to the semifinals, almost making it to the finals. Hurd with the disc for Oregon. Back on the sideline. Stanford now running a Pochi Handler look. 3-person cup. Staying off and forcing Oregon to be patient. Odie with the disc, dishing it quickly. Wide open in the end zone, 2-2. Oregon knots it up.
Great find by Schaffner. Just catching in the space on the far side. The cup's behind her. They're running to catch up, so she just puts it out to the right-hand side around the cup that's sprinting just to catch up. Don't know that they've got Bartra there in the end zone wide open.
Stanford trying to go with a Pochi, and that's what's going to happen sometimes. You're going to go ahead. When you play a Pochi defense, you play off your man, not so tight. You're going to leave open throws. It's going to happen. Oregon here, great job with the vision. As you said, Schaffner finding Bartra wide open in the end zone.
And I love Bartra here. She gives a little fake to the right just before she goes left, indicating to the cup, hey, she's coming in. We're not going to worry about her. And then she goes out to the outside, knowing her thrower.
Let's talk a little bit more about Oregon and their philosophy. When they come into this game, Lou Burris is really renowned and known for his philosophy of clown tent. It really means not worrying so much about the structure of the team, of how philosophically it's going to run. He's going to take what he has and he's going to rely on the chemistry built over years of time. Talking to Lou before the game, saying it's most difficult for people who have never played the sport before to come into the team. It takes many years for them to develop. Anybody who's coming with previous experience has a idea of playing, and Lou just makes it all work together and says, you're going to do what you're going to do. We're going to rely on the chemistry and work on that. Miscommunication, Stanford. Lim not going after the disc. Walrus. Oregon now on the sideline. Scuba through the cup, not going to get there. Back to Stanford. Go. Give and goes here from Stanford. Lim.
Interesting that Stephanie Lim's wearing her nickname on the back of her jersey rather than her given name.
Tip disc, Fontenette. Putting it down for Oregon, and they're back going the other way. It is windy here today. Winds around 10 to 15 miles an hour, gusting a little bit higher. Definitely affecting the way this early game is going. Lim, looking back for White. White holding the disc. And you see this a lot from Stanford. Lim and White directing traffic. To the end zone, Stanford. No, not quite there. Now in, Stanford 3-2. They take the lead. Maybe not the game we were expecting early. Oregon trying to get off to a fast start. Turnover by Fontenette. They get it back. Stanford able to punch it in. Maya White with the assist.
We could talk about the wind a little bit more, just because it's somewhat of a factor, just to give people at home a sense of what it is. It's shifted now, so it's now coming at the camera. They're now playing with a crosswind, and it's just enough that it could potentially affect a throw or two here and there, but at the caliber and level of these women, they're going to be fine. Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule. This is the rest of the day. Today we're watching our game, 12:30. We've got Oregon versus Stanford. Coming up next after this, in our second game in our triple header, Texas versus UNC, followed by Washington versus UCSB, final game of the day.
A lot of just top players in all those remaining games.
And looking at tomorrow, Saturday, 8:30 a.m., Colorado versus Wisconsin, number 1 seed coming in against a struggling Wisconsin, but also on the rise, winning their division huge at regionals.
Total 8 games over 3 days. Ending with the men's quarters on Saturday morning. Stanford with the pole. White. See if they stick with that zone, and we have an offside call. First one is going to be a warning. Second one will result in a yardage penalty. This one's going to be a repole for Stanford.
For those of you back home that might not be familiar, offsides, the team that's receiving the disc must have 1 foot on their line. The team that's throwing the disc cannot cross the plane of their end zone line before the disc is released. If that happens once, we'll do a repole. The second time, it's the third time we're going to have a penalty, a yardage penalty, where the team that commits the infraction will be penalized, either starting in the back of their end zone or allowing the other team to start at midfield.
Very interesting zone here from Stanford. They're throwing a 3-person cup and manning on Sophie Darch, and it works out for them. Stanford going the other way. White. You just get the sense early on that Stanford has a great game plan for this team. They've seen Oregon before, they're well documented. Unable to convert, now Oregon's going the other way. Darch. Back and forth. Nobody can catch up. Schaffner bolts it in. Isn't caught. I went with a little bit too much mustard on it.
That was an extremely impressive run down the field, back and forth. The general rule tends to be 1 or 2 times and then you stop because it's normally going to be a turnover. But the fact that Darch and Schaffner were able to do that for 45 yards.
Stanford to Schuler now. Lummis. Huster. White. Go. Stanford looking for another break. Can they put Oregon on their heels early on? And to go. Go can't make the play. Stanford so close here to getting that extra break, which could be critical against this Oregon squad.
You're going to need every break you can. Both of these teams really don't want to be giving up any extra scores than they really have to.
White picking up the disc again after another Oregon turnover. Again, the fearlessness looking deep constantly for Oregon. Great D by Oregon on the handler. Bartruff gets back Schaffner. To Hurd. Hurd looking back for the dump for Darch. Now puts a blade out wide open. Caught for the goal. Lanning with the catch. 3-3, Stanford, Oregon.
Stanford there, ready to go up 4-2. Just couldn't complete the pass. That was that little bit of win that we were talking about. And Oregon, this D by Bartruff, excellent, but it's Lily Hurd's patience to see Molly Lanning in the end zone that I'm really impressed about. There was 3 4 turnovers in this point in very quick succession. And it's not easy to go from that quick pace to being calm and seeing the field.
We're going into commercial.
And we'll be right back with the action to see how Oregon and Stanford works out in this first round opening game. Odie. A lot on this point, fitting it in. Great grab for the goal. Odie, Alex Odie from Fontanet. 7-0.
Not exactly where Fugue wanted to be in this game, but you can feel their strength coming on now. Definitely didn't want to go into half not leading. The importance of winning your pool in this format cannot be understated. You get to play one less game against a really, really good team.
At least in the men's division, since this new format changed back in 2009, there has not been a single team in the men's division, at least, that has gone through pre-quarters, not winning their pool basically, and then making it to semifinals. They have not won a single quarters matchup, so like you said, it cannot be understated. Basically, not winning your pool at this tournament means you're out of contention as far as history goes.
With the changes that USAU made to the to the regular season in the last 5 years, it's really emphasized having solid performance throughout the whole season of Ultimate rather than just bringing it on here at Nationals.
You see him, an offside from Oregon, their first warning.
Each team now with an offside apiece.
Darts remaining on the field, Fontanet as well. Short pull from Oregon. Lim, Rempel. White. Back to her sister, Monisha. Lummis to Lim, bobbles it. This is for half. Stanford desperately wanting to go in the lead against defending champs. Too low. No, caught for the goal. Or sorry. Turnover here for Oregon. Oregon looking to go the other way. Bovey, can she do it again? Bovey can't get there. Rempel with the D. Wasn't sure if we were going to see Adrienne Bovey top her first play.
That was a beautiful huck by Walrus. Just Bovey wasn't really open. That was 70 yards, perfect. If Bovey had had a step or two when she had gone, she would have just walked that into the goal. That would have been end zone to end zone for half. But there was no open person downfield. And Stanford coming back with the exact same thing.
Maya White almost makes the grab over shoulder. Hard to read those. Walrus. Odie. Walrus. Darch puts it up. Gonna float out the back of the end zone. Lim. Rempel, too far. Oregon for half. Walrus, inside break, Fontanet. Oregon regains the lead, 8-7, and everything that Stanford tried to build in this first half has just been erased by the defending national champions, Kevin.
And that's gonna hurt going in and having, what are you gonna say at halftime that gives you the confidence that you're in this game. You know, when you're up 2 breaks, have a chance for a third to really extend this lead, and now you have to go into halftime down, having lost that, and say to yourself, we can still compete with this team. You know, you came in maybe expected, feeling like you're the underdog, we've got it. And that's one of the things about like really great teams is they're able to take that, not only take control of the game, but take the wind out of the sail.
And you see there potentially for Stanford, you talk about trying to come in. You have Oregon here showing going deep. Bovee tripping up, makes the great grab. But as we go into halftime here, you talked about Stanford trying to regain confidence, and Lim and White have played every single point. And you could see there maybe with Lim, that pass, if she's a little bit fresher, is on target. It's going to be tough for Stanford here to keep up with this aggressive pace. But we'll be back in the second half to see the outcome of this exciting matchup. Oregon up 8-7, coming back to regain the lead. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2014 College Championships. A zone look, forcing them to the sideline. White. Inside break. Hoster puts it up. Bovee can't come down with it, but White can. Maya White with the score. Tied up at 8s.
Oregon, they're playing their classic 6-1 defense designed to really confuse the offense. So if it looked like there was a lot of bailouts to, like that one right before this score, to wide open women, it's because there were. They put one marker or one player playing hard defense on the mark, mix it up with the rest of them. They're not firm assignments. They can jump around from player to player, occasionally leaving those open people in the middle of the field, but also having the effect of really confusing and not knowing where an open person's going to be. You can't necessarily read the actions of what somebody's doing when they might just come over from somebody else.
Coming out here, 8-8, Stanford, Oregon tied. You see Oregon is likely to come out and stay aggressive in the second half, and normally throughout the season they've been able to pull away from their opponents. Big story in the second half is going to be whether or not Monisha White, Stephanie Lim can keep it going for Stanford, and whether or not Oregon's pushing the pace will continue to work for them. Unforced errors led to breaks for Stanford in the first half. Ball from Stanford. Darch. 3-person cup, really tight on Darch. Over the top, Odie. Big receiver. Harris. Go being very aggressive as defender, can't get it, and Oregon just moving through smoothly on offense. Schaffner to Odie. Plain and simple. Oregon runs through that zone 9-8.
Stanford taking a few too many chances and revealing the heart, the center of their cup. If you're going to go after a play in the zone and try and get a block, you have to know that you're going to get it. When you run and you overcommit, you do things like this. You can see Schaffner comes in from the far side, opening up this play that Oregon scores on, with Schaffner going to Odie. If Schaffner had gotten the D, would have been excellent. but her overplay to the center of the field exposed the far side, and Oregon didn't hesitate to take advantage of that, just rushing it up the sideline and getting the score, taking their lead back 9-8.
And after all of the lead changes and breaks, we're back on serve in this game. Again, we'll see if Oregon's aggressiveness continues to pay off.
Walrus with the pole. Walrus only a freshman out of Sheldon High School in Eugene, Oregon. Homegrown, just won Freshman of the Year in the extremely powerful Northwest region.
Oregon utilizing their own zone or 6-1 defense perhaps. Turning into a 4-man cup. Stanford being patient. Quick passes from Stanford. Lots of chemistry. This unit, a small unit. White and Lim having to play almost every point in this tournament. Moving it through. Lim, and just, you don't see Stanford stop and let Oregon set whatsoever. Hoster. Back to White. White around, just to the end zone. Through to Hoster for the goal. Stanford ties it back up, and we're seeing the offenses get into a little bit of a groove with these zones from both squads.
And didn't see a lot of pressure defensively. They were playing a very flat cup, so the first 3 people near the disc were stepping back 5 yards, preventing them from going up into the middle, but Stanford didn't worry about that. They went left and right, moving it laterally across the field in order to get up the field.
Whereas we've seen Oregon gain big chunks of yardage through the zone. You saw Stanford there work it patiently, and they took 20 to 25 throws, but they were each gainers. They were each positive throws. They would either move it side to side, give them a better look, or move it through, whereas Oregon is just sitting there going, I'm going to be a little bit more patient. I'm going to give Darch the disc and just look around, open, going to gain 15 yards.
And going over the top each time. And we haven't seen as much from Darch since the first opening few points. We'd really like to see her get more involved, pick apart the zone defense. Tied up at 9s. This game is to 15.
The wind is still going, but it's definitely calmed down from the first half. Give Oregon a little bit of a better chance to not have those unforced turnovers with the type of style of throwing they have.
I would go so far to say as this wind is a non-issue for this level of player. These women have been throwing for a long time. This is nothing for them.
Darch to Young. Give and go. Darch. Odie. Schaffner looking deep for Bovey. Out the Bovey makes the grab in the end zone. Adrian Bovey having an incredible game so far, putting Oregon back on the board 10-9.
Schaffner locking and loading, and Bovey getting up, cognizant of the line in the back there. She can't touch the line. She has to keep her feet inside. First point of contact has to be inside that line. Observers are back there, say she did it. Great awareness to make that play and stay in bounds.
Again, the aggressiveness from Oregon. Schaffner sees the receiver, says, that might be a tight window, but I'm going to fit it in there. And Bovey's going to certainly help me out with that.
And Stanford that time came down in a person defense. They put Schuler on Sophie Darch in an attempt to minimize her impact. The real problem is the depth of Oregon allows them to still have tons of open throwers and deadly threats. Darch recognized that, went up line early. I think she was going to stay up line, allow the rest of the team to work that disc and while their best defender was out of the play.
And this is, we're seeing Oregon without their best player, Bethany Kaler.
One of their best players. One of their top 5.
Hey, but
top
still,
3 maybe.
With still removing that from the equation, you see the depth. You see their ability to go ahead and fill in, say, next person up. Schaffner moving over from the D line to the O line, killing it right now for Oregon. Lim. Stanford really relying on these quick movements lately. At first, it was a lot of deep shots, and now we're seeing a much better offense initiated by handler cuts. Quick movements. Turnover, though, for Stanford. Oregon going the other way. Walrus looking deep. Fontenette. Fontenette makes the grab. Out of bounds. That would have been huge for Oregon. So we can see Stanford going back the other way in a vertical stack.
And I don't think Fontenette was her target. I think Bartroff was in the back there. That if that had gone a little bit higher, Fontenette could have let it go and Bartroff would have just easily handled it.
Hawkins, deep for go. Go, box out for the score. Stanford ties it up again. Back and forth they go. Stanford hanging tough with the defending national champs.
Excellent offensive positioning by Go. Gets her left hip in front of the right hip of her defender. Just keeps her off the whole time. She's probably outmatched 3 or 4 inches there, but it doesn't matter as long as you're using fundamental positioning. You don't have to jump to get that disc all the time.
And that starts by being able to read the disc and knowing where it's coming down and saying, I have to play here my defender more. The disc is out in front. It's going to slow down for me. Go, Caitlin Go, slowing down early enough, then applying the great box out technique as you alluded to, Kevin, reeling it in. And at 10-10 here, we've talked about it. Stanford, short roster. Can they hang? And so far, 10-10, if we're going to see a point where Oregon pulls away from it, we would think it would be right now. But Stanford looks like they have energy coming out of half. It's a matter of them capitalizing on those opportunities. On the other hand, those unforced errors for Oregon starting to go away a little bit. We haven't seen the short drops that gave Stanford short fields early on.
Going off, talking about energy, I don't see either team here more energized than the other. Both teams are sort of standing around the field. No cheers. We're in a fight right now, and we're not sure who's going to win.
Zone again from Stanford, 3-person cup, and a person devoted right to Darch in the backfield. They definitely have picked their poison. They say, we want Schaffner and Alex Odie to beat us. Over the top. Harris through the middle. Lanning. Darch. Darch relegated to being a facilitator on this point. But Oregon's depth takes care of it. Schaffner with the goal.
The respect Stanford's paying to Darch is very obvious. It's not too often that you zone up on the rest of the team and just leave one person guarded, person to person.
Darch was definitely penalizing Stanford's use of the zone early on in this game with her over-the-top throws. But with Oregon's depth, it just leaves even more of the field wide open.
And credit her leadership and willingness to do what's best for the team, and that is to take her defender away from the action and trust her teammates to go out there and get it done.
11-10, Oregon leads in our opening round coverage here on Next Gen Network. I'm Brian Jones with Kevin Minderhout. Been a great game so far, a lot of lead changes. Stanford going out and getting the early lead. Oregon battling back, taking the lead back. Stanford looking like they might go in a half with a 2 to 3 point lead, which would have been absolutely humongous for them going into the second half. Oregon, the aggressive pace has paid off. Lou Burris having the strategy of we're going to huck it and play D. We're not going to worry about turnovers. And now we're back on serve. Lim. Hawkins. Poaching by Oregon.
Here's that 6-1 defense.
Great grab on the sideline. Ruled out. Olrus. Players were waiting on an observer call. Young. Through the middle. Lim almost gets it back. And was right there on Galvin. Schaffner. Wind really picking up. Young. Schaffner. Out to space for Young. Right before the end zone, looking for the quick flip. Schaffner for the goal. That's the break Oregon was looking for. 12 to 10.
There was a lot of contact on that turnover, but also a lot of pressure. Really aggressive defense here. We're going to take another look at it, but Oregon's just not letting them have anything. Very physical, which makes it very hard to concentrate, come down and make that play. If White was bumped prior to having the opportunity to make the play, it's a little bit harder to think about coming down with your feet inbounds and making the catch. This is the talkback, this is the view.
We're going to go out. Never mind. We're live. Commentators, can you hear me? We're live.
Oregon up 12-10. Another break here could really seal this game.
Stanford has to answer now. Lim. White yelling go right off the start, looking deep. Not even looking for anything else, Kevin. Fontenette. The speed from Fontenette really opens up the middle of the field when she's isolated. Darch playing a heavy load in the second half. Last game of the day for both squads. Darch puts it up. Lim with good position gets the D for Stanford. Back to go. Lim. White, Maya White, open. Gonna run this one down. Not in the end zone. Looking to get it off. High stall, quick flip. Rempel. Back to Maya White. In the end zone, Stanford holds. That's a critical hold. Getting it back to within one.
We'll take a look at that huck by Maya White. You can see she's just yelling, go, go, go.
Maya White making the catch here from Lim. But earlier on the possession, like you were saying, Kevin, we could hear her from the sideline here yelling go at the receivers, Monisha White. And we'll be right back with the conclusion of this game. Oregon versus Stanford. Oregon leads by 1. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2014 College Championships. Lummis not in the area. Monisha White taking the shots for Stanford. Oregon with a chance to put this game away. Walrus looking back for Young. Cutter is really deep for Oregon right now. Bring in Fontenette. Overthrown, gonna hang. Oregon almost gets a hand on it. Stanford gonna go the other way. White. And you can just see right now White going slowly back to the disc. Played every point. Looking for Lim. Good defense by Walrus. White. Lim. Good look to the break side. Injury called, and you can see Lim right now just throwing that. Wonder if it's cramps. Looks like it on the field, stretching out that calf. A lot of injuries for their Stanford squad. Vance with a pulled hamstring.
And already short-handed as it is.
Schuler on the field now for Stanford. And it's going to be the Monisha White's show at this point. Without Lim.
As it has been all game.
The wind really picking up again. White. Back for Go. Go looking for the inside break, dropped. Oregon pushing the pace. Fontenette. Huge D by White. Monisha White is not ready to give up in this game.
It looks like Fontenette delayed them, started her count as she was standing over the disc waiting for Stanford to pick it up.
Good call here by Go, getting the contact call. Fontenette contesting. Saying she was stationary as a mark.
Stanford in a must-score situation. This game to 15.
Go. Over the top. Rempel. Back for White. A lot of fakes, looking deep. Oster. Back for White. Go. The defensive intensity has picked up for Oregon. They want to get the block. There's not much room. Schuler getting open. White puts it out. Stanford staying alive. Lummis with the score. 14-13. Oregon offense now with a chance to win.
And the wind picking up.
Stanford has stayed close in this game. Talking to the coaches before the game, Stanford had a blowout loss. I asked them, what do you expect out of this one? They said it's going to be a one-point game. And right now we're pretty close. Oregon could pull away here.
And Stanford has played a lot of one-point games this season. 1-point victory over UCF, the number 3 seed at this tournament. 1-point victory over Santa Barbara, number 5 seed. They had a 1-point loss as well to Oregon at the Stanford Invite this year. So this team, good, not yet great. This would be an opportunity to show greatness if they can come back here and think about just this point only. If they get possession of the disc, maintaining that possession, not turning it over.
Absolutely. Before this game, the talk was Stanford not yet a contender. And they're playing close. The game's not over yet. They're right in within reach. But with Monisha White and Lim playing so many points, they have to give a great effort here in this last 2 points and really get it together. Oregon, on the other hand, has the advantage coming in on offense.
Holding hands, united here to start their game point.
And after this, we also have our first game in the Open Division, UNC versus Texas. Hopefully be as good a game as this one has been. Again, recapping a lot of lead changes early on. Stanford getting out, Oregon coming back. Stanford building a bunch of breaks that you thought would take them to halftime and really put Oregon on their heels, and Oregon just right back in, takes the lead at half and has never looked back since. It was 8-7 Oregon at half. They've added a break. Pull comes in, looking for Darch. Zone from Stanford. They've utilized it all game long, and even here on Universe Point, or game point for Oregon, sticking with what they believe will work. And the wind has picked up. It's been a crosswind all game long. Oregon has not been afraid to throw over the tops, but here it's well defended downfield. They finally find Schaffner on the far side. It's out to space, right to go. Hoster drops the disc. Stanford getting the turnover they needed, but back to Oregon. Odie. Young. Through the cup, Darch. Darch, break to Schaffner. 5 yards from the end zone. Over the top. Huge D, looking for Bovey. Coming up with it on the D was Hillary Vance with a pulled hamstring and all, laying it on the line. And Monisha White played every single point. Can she force this game to continue on? Hoster. Lummis. D, turnover here, Oregon. Young. Darch. Bovey. Darch is open. Just before the end zone. Darch looking for the flip for the goal and the win for Oregon. Stanford battled all through this game, but it wasn't enough against the defending national champions.
And just too deep. Too many players stepping up for Oregon and making plays. Stanford coming in here planning for Sophie Darch, wanting to limit her effectiveness. But Oregon just loaded with talent. And the beauty about Oregon's talent is it's all ages in the roster. Seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, super seniors. They've got a piece at every stage.
Looking back at this game, you know, Stanford, it's going to be, you put everything you have into this game, the day's over. Monisha White has to walk away from this game, head held high. Just incredible effort playing every single point in that game. And then Adrian Bovey, player of the game without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
3 huge scores, 2 just amazing catches, 1.
Patagonia player of the game, Adrian Bovey.
And we're going to go here. We're going to see our Patagonia play of the game. Darch. Bovey stumbles, recovers, left-handed fingertip catch. Adrian Bovey, player of the game.
Yeah, we'll be seeing this play for some time to come. That layout catch.
This last one, full extension behind. Oregon wins. Number 2 seed over number 7. And this has been Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2014 College Championships. Stay tuned for next round. Men's division, UNC taking on Texas in a great matchup. Thanks for joining us.